Erst habe ich Deutsche in Afrika getötet. Jetzt töte ich Deutsche in Deutschland. Ich habe meiner Truppe vor langer Zeit versprochen, ich lasse sie nicht sterben. Warum bist du hier? Er tötet dich oder du tötest ihn. Du musst deine Pflicht erfüllen.
Ich kann das nicht!
Doch, du kannst.
There were a lot of war movies, but not so many tank war movies. And I think it's because it's not that easily to find very good pictures inside this narrow tank. So how did you approach it, like, from a visual style?
I looked at images from the war, and I realized that what we see in cinema isn't what the war actually looked like, and especially later in the war, when you know, the army was very tired. Everybody was tired. This thing had been going on, and there's just something interesting about seeing these tanks with chairs and pots tied to them, food and rations, and you realize that it's a mobile home.
Der Panzer ist hin!
Wir sind noch nie weggelaufen. Warum dann jetzt? Ich halte diese Kreuzung.
Was soll das?
Das ist mein Zuhause.
Ich bleibe bei Ihnen.
Some images in this movie, I think the audience will not forget for some time. Like the scene where the tank drives through the mud, and when you look closer, you see those as massed bodies. Were there like moments on set where you forgot this is a set, this is so devastating, that really touched you?
Everything was a surprise. Even if it was in the script, you'd put it to the side and you'd see it, and it was horrifying. But yeah, it was yeah, it's war, right?
You know, like the things that you see, like it's actually toned down a lot, because real war is very nasty, and this is you know, still a movie. You want to entertain, but it's as real as you want, as you could be.
Yeah, we shot out there in real you know, fields, open spaces, and that battalion that Mike's talking about before our first night. You know, we slept there. We slept by the tank the first night, so we woke up, you know, in that battalion, and yeah, I'll never forget that.
Ich hatte Angst, Sie sind tot. Wo ist der Rest vom dritten Zug?
Wir sind der Rest.
So the training was not just to make sure you know how to look like, you know what you're doing, but you really did drive the tank?
We were doing it. I mean, all the tank operating in the movie, we did ourselves, you know, and every other tank unit was being handled by a real tank crew, you know, a real English tank crew. This, you know, Mike drove it himself, but I think the pre-production wasn't only just to be proficient on the tank and look like a real tank crew. The movie's about a family. It's about, this is a family drama. It's a family traveling through hell in a metal box. And the training and the time spent there was to get completely comfortable and to really get to know each other. You know, it's a family. We had to be a family by the time we started, and we definitely were.
And that was real, you know what I mean? Because I did another movie with David Ayer, and he wants that realness. And we got very close in boot camp. It's one of those kind of things where, like, you're just being broken, and you know, the other person has to pick you up. You know, think of whatever weakness you have, the other guy has got to pick you up, and that's what happened, and we got very, very close.
Achtung! Feuer! Wagner!
Schieß die Drecksau ab! Schieß!
Mach deinen Job! Tu, wozu du hier bist!
And the first time with the tank, was it more scary or more exciting?
Scary. It was scary. Because when you see it, like when you see a tank coming by, it's very loud. And then you see the tracks like, you know, and you're like, oh my God. And it looks like it's meant to kill. You know what I mean? And you go in there and it's very, very tight, and then driving it is like this. You know what I mean? It made it tough, but we wanted to make it as real as possible. There's, you know, there's some movies that you're like, oh, what is it like? Oh, that looks pretty real. And you're like, no. I was driving the tank. He was like really putting shells in, you know, firing down rage. He was telling us what to do, and then I had a bow gunner, and everybody knew what they were doing in that tank.
Immerhin kriegen wir $1,35 pro Tag, richtig? Der beste Job, den ich je hatte.
Der beste Job, den ich je hatte.
Der beste Job, den ich je hatte.
The one thing I never saw before in a war movie are those machine gun fights.
Yes.
Because with the tracer ammunition, and they look a little bit like Star Wars. Like, is this like, did you find this out, or do you do it as a visual thing?
No, it's, if you look at film, wartime film from combat in the war, you can see the machine gun tracer rounds, and every side in the war would use this. So the Americans were red or pink. The German military would be green, higher caliber would be orange, and the Japanese military would be blue or purple. So we did a lot of research and a lot of study to get that correct. And the veterans that have seen the film are very much reminded of the battles that they have seen.